if it involves whooping you, I will. Jax wins. Fatality.
Video game violence. A topic that is highly debated in this country when violence occurs with adolescents. Many people believe that video game violence has a direct impact on aggression or violent behavior. And it's hard to blame them when many key figures over the years in this country make statements like Senator Joseph Lieberman, who referred to violent video games as digital poison, as reported by CNN in 1997. This isn't an isolated incident either. In 2005, Senator Hillary Clinton declared that playing violent video games is to an adolescent's violent behavior what smoking tobacco is to lung cancer. Now let that last one sink in. Somebody actually stated that this is comparable to this. Or our current president in recent months stating, "I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts." There are multiple examples of people in a seat of power besides these, and they all have one common theme. They fail to take into consideration many factors that point to video game violence not being a contributor to crime and aggression. This issue was addressed in 2013 by dozens of scholars from multiple countries, issuing a letter to the APA, American Psychiatric Association, in regards to data not supporting the previous claims made by the APA in 2005 in regards to video game violence. This is showing from the year 2000 till 2013, when the letter was sent to the APA from scholars stating that the statistics don't back up the claims that video games lead to violent behavior. As you can see, the population of the country has gone up. That is not news to most. But what is important is the total crime and violent crime rates have dropped. If video games do in fact lead to aggressive behavior or violent behavior, as many have claimed over the years, it should make sense that the countries that spend more on video games would have a higher crime rate. Yet in 2012, Max Fisher from the Washington Post gathered data from 10 countries using the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, showing the crime rate compared to the spending on video games. This further enforces the letter sent to the APA in 2013, showing that the data is fairly consistent globally, showing that video game market doesn't have an impact on crime. Video games have always been something that is easy to point at because of its violent tendencies like Mortal Kombat. And yet, even at the highest point of authority in this country, the Supreme Court, it is rejected as a significant cause for minors to act aggressively as demonstrated in Brown v. Entertainment Merchants Association. In 2011, the Supreme Court decided that video game violence was protected under the First Amendment for this reason. Any demonstrated effects are both small and indistinguishable from effects produced by other media. This is another instance where when the facts are taken into account, they don't back up the claims made about video games being a cause of aggressive or violent behavior. We have multiple cases of video games violence not being supported, so why is this still such a widespread train of thought? A key factor in this is that video game violence is still talked about as having an impact on things like school shootings that have plagued this country in recent years by news and media, even our current president. Even though the APA in 2017 stated as a recommendation, public officials and news media should refrain from erroneous statements implying all perpetrators of a particular class, such as school shootings, have been influenced by violent video games or other media. They go on to say the reason is unwarranted. Now, even with all of this information available to the masses, you can still find studies that show a correlation between video game violence and real-world violence. For this, I'll leave it to two professors who explain this to us. Now, on this slide, you will see a few paragraphs from these few professors, and I'm going to paraphrase this. These two explain that the current ethical standards prevent us from directly showing an effect because you're not going to have someone play a video game and then hand them a gun to see what happens. On top of this, they also state that the negative effects shown in studies in the past don't know if the changes are permanent, cumulative, or different for people who play more or less frequently. The numbers, Supreme Court, APA, and many professors all support the notion that video game violence does not impact crime or long-term behaviors. It's about time we understand the same.